states only about 43% of births are registered in Nigeria.
And more than half of the births of children in Nigeria under 5 years are unregistered. Now, this, it says, it's a huge, huge challenge, considering that 166 million births under 5, of course, those under 5 years, are recorded globally.
That's true, Claire. Several issues still constitute obstacles to birth registration in Nigeria. Some of these include lack of public awareness on the importance of birth registration for children, as well as social beliefs.
Indeed, and also social norms like discrimination against single mothers and the birth of twin babies in some communities. I'm sure, Demola, you remember the history of twin babies in those days.
As we call that, this is the Mary's Lester that stopped
exactly,
the killing
in Calabar.
of, Nigeria's First Lady brought managers of birth registration in the country, including UNICEF, National Population Commission, National Identity Management Commission, NIMSI, and other related to find solutions to Nigeria's birth registration issues.
Indeed, and that was just last week, and it was meant to launch, and scale up program under her Renewed Hope initiative project.
Also, recall that UNICEF is seeking the registration of newborns so they can get the National Identity Number, NIM.
And we will be having guests joining us soon to speak on these issues. And of course, we will understand why birth registration is still a huge challenge and the wide gap that exists in our country today, despite all efforts by government and international partners. And so I welcome you to Good Morning Nigeria this beautiful Thursday. And I'm Claire Adilabu Abdurrazak.
And I'm Ademola Adeoye. We are live on the network service of the NTA. Chukudi Okoli Uwaja will join us later for the newspaper review. But first, let's join Najatu Tijani for the news. Good morning, Najatu.
Pretty Najatu.
Good morning, Ademola and Claire. Good morning, Nigeria. Here is the news. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has addressed the Forum on China-Africa Cooperation at the ongoing summit. The Nigerian leader is seeking improved partnerships for mutual progress. In the meantime, President Tinubu has expressed hope that this edition of the Forum on China-Africa Cooperation will address the grey areas yet to make the relations more rewarding for both parties. The Nigerian leader and chairman, ECOWAS Authority of Heads of State and Government, has expressed this belief during his meeting with the Premier of China, Li Qiang, ahead of his first FOCAC participation in Beijing.
We are in this journey together. We believe that we can share a very common denominator, which is investment and development, to ensure China and African relationship is encouraged.
Here in Nigeria, the National Economic Council has reconstituted the Committee on Flood Mitigation and Adaptation to alleviate the plight of affected states. The Council has also endorsed the N774 program as a primary platform for combating malnutrition in Nigeria.
More devastating along the northeast axis, where the major artery between Kano and Maiduguri has been cut off, with devastating effects on households, schools, bridges, and other means of livelihoods. Lives were lost, and a lot of properties were also destroyed.
Monday will be the deadline for all the states of the Federation to submit a detail of damages, including farms, schools, bridges that have been affected by the last flood.
Meanwhile, Nigeria has been elected as one of the 4 vice presidents of the Africa Union of Broadcasting in a keenly contested election held this Wednesday at the ongoing General Assembly of the Union in Gaborone, Botswana. Nigeria was a member of the Executive Council, which was dissolved at the end of its 2-year tenure on Tuesday. The 4-day AUB General Assembly featured 6 panel discussions around the theme, the future of African media, facing the challenges of new technologies and climate change. Nigeria's contributions to the growth and development of the broadcast industry in Africa, especially in the establishment and sharing of content to the AUB Cloud platform by the NTA, was acknowledged and appreciated by member countries. The Director General of the NTA, Salihu Abdulhamid Dembos, who is to represent Nigeria as the Vice President of the AUB, is expected to bring his wealth of experience to further develop the broadcast industry in Africa. And in the ongoing Paralympic Games in Paris, Esther Nwogu secures 2nd Paralympic medal for Team Nigeria in the women's 41-kilogram category on the first day of the Paralympic event. The eventual gold medal winner from China emerged champion in the 119-kilogram lift. Nwogu's victory is Nigeria's 2nd medal after Mariam Eniola-Bolaji's bronze medal in the para-badminton event in day 1. And that's the news for now. Good Morning Nigeria continues with Claire and Ademola after the break.
From the Atlantic across the savannah to the Sahara, we rise, a land of the free, we know they tire. We dream great, our spirit is undying.
Resilient, rooted like palm tree, we sway in colors, with undying demand. We bet solutions, we ignite passion, yeah. Each ethnicity is unique, we have more than destination.
We are Nigeria, strengthened in unity. We know they carry lives. We are Nigeria, together live the dream of a land with great destiny. We are Nigeria.
I am the real Nigerian. Brought to you by the National Orientation Agency, NOA. The new Milo 3-in-1 Milky and Creamy is truly milky and contains calcium. No need to add milk for that rich, creamy cup, which helps to nourish and energize your kids.
Milo.
We're live in the open market for Epic 10X Challenge. My people, today now. Today, I will show you how the power of new Epic 10X gives your toilet a better cleaning than bleach.
Than bleach?
Yes, so.
Impossible.
Toilets have stains which bleach cannot clean effectively. But Epic is thicker and sticks better, which gives 10X better cleaning versus bleach and kills germs.
Oh, wow.
You can now see that Epic is better than bleach.
Relief is coming. More wages, reduced costs. Nigeria's national minimum wage is now 70,000 naira and it will be reviewed every 3 years. The federal government will commence immediate implementation and state governments are being encouraged to follow suit. With the presidential CNG initiative, transport costs are coming down. Are you a car owner or a transporter? Visit www.pci.gov.ng to find out how you can benefit from switching to CNG. This is the renewed hope.
A new edition of TV Guide is out.
This time, we got up close and personal with the transformational legislator, the Deputy President of the Senate, distinguished Senator Barrel Jibrin.
It created a difference in terms of representation through interventions that have brought an unprecedented infrastructural development to my area.
This edition is a compendium of mind-blowing stories for your reading pleasure, ranging from technology, entertainment, economy, media, politics, family, and lots more.
It is indeed a park of excitement as we take you through every aspect of life. Pick up your copy and get abreast with issues and trending features within our space.
TV Guide, very incisive, very educative and compelling. Grab a copy at the vendor near you or any NTA station nationwide. TV Guide, your indispensable companion.
You have to move from the point where you protect and defend your religion to a point where you also recognize the rights of the other person, of the other religion, and protect it. So if I am protecting my own territory and my own people and trying to emphasize their rights and protect their rights, I should also be thinking about how to protect the rights of the others.
Both Islam and Christianity recognize and defer to God, and both recognize the temporariness of the life of this world, and that ultimately we all go back to God for the day of reckoning, when everybody will render an account of his life on this temporary abode.
The race to qualify for the biggest football competition in Africa is on. The 2025 Africa Cup of Nations. 48 teams in 12 groups, with only the top 2 teams in each group qualifying for the African Cup of Nations in 2025 in Morocco. Don't miss the action, suspense and unrivaled coverage on AfroSport TV and its affiliates partners across Nigeria, starting from September 2024 to November 2024. AfroSport, your freedom of sport.
You're watching Good Morning Nigeria live on the network service, and it's time now to bring a newspaper review, and that will be in just a moment.
Yeah, and we have our newspaper reviewer here, Chukwudi Okoli Ugbaje. You are welcome.
I rode in all majesty to the office because the roads are virtually empty.
Wow.
You know, the only little problem there is that my tank is almost empty.
It's right.
So the emptiness.
The emptiness.
Has an advantage
empty.
and disadvantage.
Yes.
The fuel you're using right now, when did you get it?
I bought black market, 10 liters, 13,500 naira.
Oh, you're lucky.
2 days ago.
You're lucky.
The last drop is in the car now. I hear it's hit 15,000.
No, it's way beyond that. The last time
Claire,
I priced.
I have to return home.
Yes.
Don't frighten me.
No. The last time I tried to, 2 days ago, yesterday, was 17.5, just very close by here, for 10 liters.
Claire, it's time for newspaper review.
Claire.
Yes, I'll start with Daily Trust. Daily Trust is leading with the story on petrol price hike. Transport fares surge 50% nationwide, and it comes with a number of riders there. Commuters express worry. Protest breaks out in Delta. Inflation may rise further. Man, Afenifere, PDP demand reversal of increase. TUC asks government to rescind decision, and Tinubu didn't bargain fuel price for minimum wage. Presidency tells the NLC. All that, of course, on the front page, and you can pick up the paper. It's on page 4, details of it. All the stories still on the front page. Gunmen attack 2 plateau communities, kill 7. It's on page 10. And banks' loans to private sector hit 2.3 trillion naira in 1 month. That's according to a report that's on page 19. And Africa, good place for investments, President Tinubu tells Chinese investors. And just a bit below the nameplate that you have, Gbatabia Mila can't take over National Assembly's oversight role. And this is attributed to the reps. Details of that on page 11. State Police submit reports in 6 days. NEC tells full states and the FCT. And details of that on page 30. Nigeria, complex but not difficult to govern. That's coming from former President Olusegun Obasanjo, and that's the outlook of the Daily Trust. Let's quickly move on to the New Telegraph. The New Telegraph is also leading with a lead story on the new fuel pump price, and this is LCCI Labour. New fuel pump price will bring severe hardship on Nigerians, and there are also riders there. Job losses, firms shut down, surge in inflation boom. Federal government to NLC. President never negotiated minimum wage with fuel price. Tinubu pushing Nigerians to the wall. PDP. NLC says denial of president's offer amusing. And state police again is trending on the front page of the New Telegraph. State police, NEC gives governors Monday ultimatum to make submissions. This is that on page 2 and 6. There are quite a number of stories that we have also read from Daily Trust is trending here on the front page of New Telegraph. Demola.
Okay, I have the leadership newspaper with me, and just above the nameplate, Shetima inaugurates $115 million APM terminal upgrade. Details on page 23. Nigerians must tackle malnutrition, food insecurity gains. That's the details on page 8. Northern governors condemn Mafa attack, demand swift justice. Details on page 8. And the major headline there is fuel pump price. Pressure mounts for immediate reversal. Expect prices of goods to rise. Manufacturers warn it's brutal assaults on Nigerians. PDP. We can have the details of that story on page 7. Then we have leadership. CMG orders strengthen media cooperation. 3,590 Nigerians on death row. And 9 killed in fresh attack on Plateau community. Details on page 16. And POS registration. Operators sue federal government as deadline ends today. Details of that story can be found on page 23. Chooks.
The fuel hike, of course, is an ill wind that blows no one any good. Yesterday we were reading that government was not aware of what was happening in NPCL as well, and we found it rather strange. This morning I've not seen anything that suggests that government and NPCL are now aware. What I see is Nigeria lied on minimum wage deal over pump price hike. So it's defending what Ajero, insinuated or intoned or said. That is the matter now. Does government know now? Doesn't. You see, when I talk about editors needing to follow up issues critically, if I were an editor, I would say, are you now aware? You have to learn to drive in and on behalf of the people, not necessarily to embarrass government. Because many of these things happening, the most important aspect of it is communication. In communication is messaging. What kind of message are you putting out? Does it make people trust what you have said? Immediately say it. And does that engender goodwill and help us all rally round, towards national development? Because that is the ultimate goal. No government exists to punish the people. Please, no government does. It's just that some actions and inactions might lead to situations that are undesirable. But no government really comes to punish their own people. The Venezuela, for instance, Maduro is telling you that part of what is happening there is that he's fighting some kind of colonialism by some powers. They say that the opposition leader actually won the elections. They have not done the vote tally officially to show who won. But even the Maduro government will tell you, I'm doing this for Venezuelans. But circumstances sometimes alter how they go about it. And that is when you should give criticism in good faith. Very important. I said the roads were empty. I told Claire, please go to newspaper review because she was frightening me further and further. How do I get back home and all that? Now, what I'm thinking is this. It's going to go down, of course. It will. It will. It's not going to stay there.
You mean the fuel?
It is going to go down.
Okay. The pump
look
price.
Look at the scenario we're looking at. The Port Harcourt refinery, we are told, let's say within 2 months, is going to come on.
Please, let's stop that one.
It's okay.
Please, don't go there
It's
again.
okay, fine.
We have been hearing that for
My
over...
problem is that I'm
Please.
overdrunk with optimism in life.
No,
That's
no.
why I'm a happy
please.
man.
Don't
The
go
second
there.
one is, Demola, Dangote
Dangote now, you can...
is rolling out in a
Good.
matter of maybe... So prices are going to stabilize somewhere. Now that landing costs are not part of it, Port Harcourt that come, and let's now maybe do between
Let's
600
say
and 700 and all. It's that. Just watch out what will happen.
You know, Chukwudi,
So all these things.
When I said, when I mentioned the price, I didn't mean to scare anyone. And I just wanted to emphasize that was or is the price at the black market.
Yes.
So we all have a choice. So either, endure the long queues at the normal petrol station, or part with more money with the black marketers. Just to clarify that. So
Okay.
yes, but as
But
at
how
yesterday,
come
as
the
at
black
yesterday,
markets have the fuel and the petrol
No,
stations
you
don't
see,
have
No,
it?
no,
that is
Rano
an-
filling
that
station,
is-
for instance, at Nyanya, the queue is not even
you
long.
Demola, that is a
They
problem.
have taken a comfortable price, so the stations are selling.
That is an issue that I think we must address. The fact that you drive into the petrol stations and you don't find fuel there, but right outside the petrol stations,
You see people, lining the streets
lining
with,
the streets
They are
with
pulling,
cans
the,
of
they are
petroleum.
pulling the
Yeah,
fuel from the backyard of my
Yeah,
dead
so
father.
we must address those are the people causing us more harm than what you think the government is doing. And I always emphasize that we are the ones, dealing with ourselves.
In sincerity.
Yes, we are the ones dealing with
You
ourselves.
heard how I practically lamented. I hate that word when I read it in newspapers. Somebody has lamented. I practically lamented when an Interpol official was asked, how do we deal with banditry in the north and insurgency? And he said, Nigerians should learn to be God-fearing. He was not talking kinetic, non-kinetic, all those things. He has seen things happening there. Some people are taking profit from the misery of other people.
Every time
Can we go on like this?
Yes, Demola, every time we talk about, we celebrate either any of those festivities, Eid Kabir, or, Easter, or Christmas, or whatever. The central message that we put out there is sacrifice.
Exactly.
And the need for Nigerians to imbibe the teachings of their faith.
Of course.
And sacrifice is a key message of both
Very
Islam
important.
and Christianity. So where is our faith? What are we practicing?
Right.
Because these things, you exercise them in several aspects of our lives. You understand? In your transactions, in your dealings, in your offices, wherever you find yourself. If you're a Christian, if you're a Muslim. And I told one of those boys the other day, I said, fear God. When he told me it was 18.5 for 10 liters, I said, fear God. And he ran away. You understand? So we must begin to exercise, the teachings of our faith. That's one. Then in terms of communication, I think it's also good for us, as communicators, to know when to respond, to know what issues to respond. You mentioned, the issue.
It helps your
yes,
credibility.
Yes,
Or lack of it.
Exactly.
Yes.
Sometimes there are issues like this. You don't go all out. You have not come to tell us whether or not you are aware that the new price,
If I were an editor, that's what I'll hammer on this
precisely.
morning.
Demola, sorry, those are the points I wanted to raise about that.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you. That was almost, pastoral or imamish.
No, because we
That's
claim,
a good one.
we claim we go to the church, we go to the mosque. On Friday we all troop to the mosque.
Claire.
On Sundays we troop to the. Ademola is a pastor. He knows what I'm saying.
Claire.
Yes.
We try as much as we can to steer away from religion because we know the kind of country we're in. But what is happening in the worship places now is that largely people just come in, the pastor or imam, let me talk about pastor because that's where the scenario I know more of. They start blessing your sins and they start casting and binding away your enemies. They don't care to tell you that it is still good to be honest. It is still good to be your neighbor's keeper. It is still good to tell the truth. Those ones are in the background now.
Did you say they start blessing your sins?
Oh, yeah, that's what it's going to now.
No,
it's unfortunate.
I don't think so. It's
we are headed for... please, let me not get emotional.
Okay, let's move on now.
I don't think so.
Let's
it's
move
just
on.
that we are more religious.
So all the casting and binding,
we are more religious.
Instead of telling me, Chukwudi, if you continue in sin, you will pay the price. I want to hear that more than you telling
Chukwudi,
me that old woman
let's
that is
quickly talk
responsible
about
for my problems.
state police. NEC is giving governors Monday ultimatum to make submissions. And I know you are a very strong advocate.
No, it's not about being an advocate. Nigeria has no choice. State police is an inevitability. There's no choice. And I keep saying, this fear about, hey, governors will misuse it, blah, blah, blah. It was a military president that gave us private broadcasting. We were saying people will be announcing coups in their community radio, blah, blah, blah. No, come on, you don't become rich by running away. Those who are rich people will tell you they are first and foremost risk takers. Nigeria must get bold to get better. That's what I think. It's a matter of time. The good one, please.
Yeah, the good one.
The visit to China by the president,
yes,
very important.
Yes.
Very important.
Very important.
Because
and we've you know, I mean, NTA has been on it. You know, we've been running stories on the outcomes and all that. We're looking forward to
benefits.
I keep on saying,
benefits,
I hope I don't sound like a sycophant. I keep on saying the presidency means well. I told you. First, from January to March, we said we got more money from export than we spent on imports. And now we're saying that Q1 has gone to 3 point what? Yes, from 2...
They said 3.19.
Yes. So there are indicators. I know they mean well.
Yes, there are indicators, just that the populists are expecting that this will be translated into...
So, but before we go, the most sharing news for us...
that is just the
most sharing news for us in sports.
Okay.
And I mean, as expected in Paralympics, you know, we've always, you know, win gold. And we've won our second gold medal. We're now on the medal table. Esther Nwogo, you know, gave us the second.
You did sports when you were in secondary.
Oh yeah, yes I did, but
so why did you stop?
Don't worry.
She still bears physical evidence, you know, of a rigorous sports activity when she was a younger person.
You know, okay.
So
congratulations to all of them. You please now, these are ladies, Abba.
Okay, congratulate them.
Please leave the man. It's time to wave me away.
Let me ask you: do you have a birth certificate? Authentic birth certificate?
Yes, but I left it in the house of a landlord I didn't pay early enough. There are things you don't say on the air, but you know me, Claire. So I live like a child.
He seized your
he didn't seize it. I didn't do what I should do.
Okay, but
I have a birth certificate.
You were duly registered.
Of course, yes.
All right, Chukwudi.
I was duly registered.
I have.
Okay, all right. So I've given you a hint. That's our topic coming up shortly. Don't go away. Chukwudi, thank you very much.
Thanks a lot.
We'll see you tomorrow.
Nigeria will get better.
That President Bola Tinubu has approved the suspension of import duties and tariffs on rice, maize, and other essential food items for the next 5 months. The President has also approved the suspension of import duties on pharmaceutical raw materials and equipment. This will help bring down the prices of food and drugs across the country. All hands are on deck to ensure that things get better for all Nigerians. This is the renewed hope.
NTA Television College Jos, with a pedigree of producing indelible professionals in the media space and an affiliate of the prestigious Ahmadu Bello University, Zaria, for the award of Degree in Mass Communication, calls on prospective candidates to leverage on the following courses it offers for 2024-2025 academic session: BSc Mass Communication, those with minimum admissible score of 180 and above who sat for the 2024 JAMB/UTME and direct entry, while 100 to 179 minimum admissible score can apply for the National Innovation Diploma NID in Film and Television Production, Broadcast Journalism and Television Engineering. For more inquiries, visit our website or call 0803 383 4343. Announcer, Registrar.
The Council of Our Fathers.
My advice to these young people is please do not take us back to those harrowing days. You probably do not know what it is.
Nigerian youths, let's build our nation together.
All the way from Lagos State is the Vibes Clan and all the way from Ogun State is the Lighters family. Mention something that happens to you when hungry.
I get angry.
Survey says... Ma'am, you are beautiful as your name.
Thank you.
You say you can mimic anybody.
Well,
Mimic me.
and that's here on the live show.
Mention a place where petty thieves steal easily.
Bosses.
Concerts.
Front of ATMs. Under the bridge.
Markets.
You're a songwriter, minister. Write a song on the spot for Cassie's late coming.
Lord, we need a miracle. Cassie is a late comer. Lord, we need a miracle for Cassie. If you do this miracle, we'll say thank you, Lord.
Nigeria means a lot to me.
And Nigeria means peaceful cohesion.
My country.
We continue to pray, and then hopefully we will come to understand that unity of purpose, unity of living together.
Our ethnic beliefs and background and culture is our strength.
Ever since the amalgamation period of 1914 to date, about 109 years ago, the people of Nigeria live very peacefully with one another.
I think diversity helps a lot to enhance robust development in Nigeria.
All over the country, you have so many ethnic groups, over 250. That is enough to tell you that this is a blessed country, that, that God has kept, together as one indivisible entity.
The race to qualify for the biggest football competition in Africa is on, the 2025 Africa Cup of Nations. 48 teams in 12 groups, with only the top 2 teams in each group qualifying for the African Cup of Nations in 2025 in Morocco. Don't miss the action, suspense and unrivaled coverage on AfroSport TV and its affiliates partners across Nigeria, starting from September 2024 to November 2024. AfroSport, your freedom of sport.
All right, it's time for us to get the conversation going. But first, let me welcome you once again to Good Morning Nigeria if you've just joined us. And it's live on the network service of the NTA. Now, just a reminder that we are discussing birth registration and how to upscale it in our country. It's been a big challenge, and UNICEF, of course, in partnership with other private sector, and not forgetting the Office of our First Lady, are driving this upscaling period for us. But first, Let's listen to Yemi Ajayi's background report on the upscaling birth registration before we begin our introductions.
According to UNICEF, 43% of children born in Nigeria are registered, and this means that more than 50% of births of children under age 5 remain unregistered. This is attributed to challenges associated with the issuance of birth certificates and characterized by extortion of bottlenecks and inadequate registration centers, especially in the rural areas. The Sustainable Development Goals target 16.9 calls for governments by 2030 to provide legal identity for all, including birth registration. The indicator for the target is the proportion of children under 5 years of age whose births have been registered with a civil authority by age. To reach this target, it is believed that Nigeria must strengthen the institutional and technical capacities of the National Population Commission and Civil Registration and Vital Statistics partners, support the digitization of birth registration processes, and ensure adequate financial resources are allocated. With increasing demand for birth certificates in virtually all official documentations in schools, public and private establishments, parents are now eager to ensure their children were issued with birth certificates by the National Population Commission (NPC). In 2012, NPC, with the support of UNICEF, initiated the birth registration program to address the problem of low birth registration. Now, with the recent launch of the birth registration drive by the Renewed Hope Initiative project, is targeted at accelerating birth registration at scale, led by the First Lady of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. It also seeks to scale across the country with strong support from the United Nations and UNICEF to the efforts of the federal government. Now, what other efforts are being put in place to upscale childbirth registration in the country? Our guests will be answering these and more shortly.
Well, thank you, Yemi Ajayi, for that background up there. And we already have our guests seated in the studio to discuss on the topic of scaling birth registration in Nigeria. First, let me just introduce Dr. Telson Osifo Ojogo, who is the Director General, National Population Commission, NPC. You're welcome to Good Morning Nigeria.
Yeah, good morning all.
All right. Also, I want to equally welcome Ibrahim Sese, UNICEF Chief of Child Protection. Sese, you're welcome.
Good morning, Nigeria. Thank you so much for having me.
All right.
Okay, we also have Ibrahim Suleiman, who is the Chief Operations Officer, COO, Banks Forth Technologies Limited, and we're glad to also have you with us.
Thank you for having me. Good morning, Nigeria.
All right.
So let's kick start with Dr. Ojogo, who is the NPC Director General. Let's look at what is the current, situation now with registration of births. What are the challenges?
Well, good morning, Nigerians. Birth registration is in phases. We'll talk about under 5. We'll talk about attestation for the adults. The challenges, the tendency for, like was actually mentioned, you have coverage issues in urban areas, highly covered, rural areas yet to be fully covered, and there's what could be called apathy to registration. The fact that some do not even know the essence of registration, limited advocacy and sensitization, and all this seems to work together to impact negatively on the registration of birth. Especially, we talk about births outside the hospitals. The tendency also is that they are not likely to be registered, which is more than put together. Some will say it's about 60%. And, it's like there's no enforcement. Apart from the fact that some schools will tell you that without your child being registered, you are not likely to be admitted. But that is not even enforceable. So there are so many other issues that comes in both social, political, and economic. And some look at it, though it is free, the tendency for somebody to actually travel from their home to a registration center. If you look at the equidistance from a particular registration and a catchment area, it tells a lot of story many persons may not have the wherewithal to travel to those registration centers, to actually give their children identity. But all borders on value. If you have value based on knowledge, you are likely to make up for the identity of that child. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you, DJ, for your opening remarks. But I want to turn my attention to the Chief of Child Protection himself, Mr. Ibrahim Sase. And I'm sure the one very important question the viewer will be asking, himself at this moment in time, when I'm sure we all know what's happening out there, is why are we having this conversation? Why is birth registration an issue? I mean, why are we making so much noise about it when UNICEF could, focus on so many other things?
Thank you so much. First and foremost, the registration of a child's birth is a fundamental right. What makes you a Nigerian? What is your legal identity as a citizen of this country? Stems from the fact that your birth is registered, a certificate is issued by the recognized authority. Now, accessing other services is also very much linked and associated with birth registration. As you grow up, you really want to make sure you have a car, landed property, and all of this. So it's all linked in terms of also social and economic development. If we want to build schools to really make sure children have access to those facilities and infrastructure, what is our population density with regards to coverage? You look in terms of the age of criminal responsibility so that children will not really get into areas wherein they are in conflict with the law based upon age. That determination comes from the birth certificate. So the proof of legal identity is very, very fundamental. And also it's also even a security issue even for the states. So all these are very, very critical, important elements that really cause right across the spectrum. One, for the child, is a fundamental right enshrined within the Constitution of Nigeria. That right, they have to enjoy it.
What advantage does it have over other legal documents that confirm your identity? I mean, we have quite a number of legal documents, certifying that I'm a true Nigerian.
The most important thing, all of those documents are associated from the birth of that particular individual. You want to have your passport with regards to travel. What do they ask you? Your date of birth. And then the date of birth stems from what? Your registration of birth. So you really want to have a driver's license, they will ask you the same. You're opening a bank account, it stems also from the same issue. You want to really access, for instance, social protection like the palliative care, they will ask you, when were you born? Where were you born? So all of these are very, very important constituents derived from the fact that the birth certificate, that proof of identity, is very, very critical.
Okay, thank you very much, Sese, for your opening remark there. Let's bring in Ibrahim Sulaiman now. You are the Chief Operating Officer, Bankfort Technologies. So let me just ask you, you've listened to the DG, NPC, when he rolled out some of the challenges, especially getting to the rural communities and also the issue of lack of adequate, sensitization. So how can we leverage on technology at least to improve birth registration processes and also to increase the coverage?
The coverage.
Yes.
Thank you very much. Before I jump on that, just to also follow up on what Chief said, why the birth certificate is very key is because we call it the foundational identity. That is what links every other thing. And that is where, with the collaboration of the UNICEF and the MPC, and where we come in to ensure that the database that Nigeria is building currently stems from that. Because that is where all of this starts from. And when you see the way we have gone about doing this systematically, you would see that we are saying when a child is born, the first thing they get is this foundational identity, which is the birth certificate. Now, Also, part of the things that we've also gone ahead to do is to collaborate with the help of NPC, to collaborate with the National Identity Management Commission, who issues the NIN. Now, this means that without a birth certificate, you cannot get an NIN. The NIN is your national identity, and that now stems from your birth certificate. So these are things that have been put in place, and that buttresses the point which he says, which is to say that the birth certificate is the most foundational identity that a child or even an individual should have before getting any other thing. Now, going to the other question, which is how
to leverage on technology to tackle this challenge.
What we've been able to do is to, over the years, look at some of the challenges that the commissions have had in trying to get into these remote places. And we've been able to develop a seamless, easy technology that is easy to use and also leverages on the ubiquitous nature of smartphones. So we know currently today that the coverage of smartphones across the country is a lot, and we've been able to build technology that ensures that even the minimal standard feature phone is able to use this particular technology. And also part of the things that we've also done is also to ensure that for every NPC functionary and the beautiful thing is that NPC has a touch point everywhere. I think about 4,000 functionaries across registration centers across the country. And we're able to equip them with this technology to ensure that when people get into those centers, which are closest to the people, they are able to engage this technology and be able to get registrations done as quick as possible. It doesn't take you about maybe 2 minutes to be able to get this done. But at the technical level is to ensure that, because we understand the technologies that go into all of this, we understand what Nigeria too is trying to achieve, which is to achieve a credible national database. And because of that, we've ensured to bake into this to ensure that the data captured is credible enough to interpret with other agencies, other databases that need it. So NIMC, Ministry of Health, National Primary Health, and all of that as we expand that particular spectrum of data.
What about those in the communities who do not have phones? You'll be shocked that a lot of them do not even have all these the
feature phones.
So what happens?
So
how do you capture those?
So that's why I'd mentioned about the 4,000 spread. So we have what is called the assisted service, where when you get to any of these national population registration centers, you can meet with these people and they can help you. Now, that is where also UNICEF also comes in also. Because like he mentioned while he was in the opening dialogue, which is to say that even for some people, because we need to, doing this, we've been able to appreciate the diversity of Nigeria. You get to some local governments, some wards are actually quite far from the local government place. And that's where UNICEF has come in to say, okay, we would take this from the local government areas, take them to the homes of these people. So with the help of UNICEF and MPC and us, we've been able to deploy agents who go knocking on each door to say, oh, we are here, good morning, Nigeria, we are here this morning to capture you. And so we've been able to do that. And also, it doesn't just end there also. It helps us to be able to engage with these people, and also even at the, which is the outcome, which is to deliver certificates also to these particular people.
But for you to be able to do that, you must have, adequate staff.
Yes.
And also they must also be conversant with the language of that community. Yes. Do you recruit from the community, or you bring, how do you manage that?
Fantastic. So what we do with that is to ensure that working with the NPC functionaries in those areas, we're able to engage people. And we take them through a series of rigorous training and also rigorous assessment to ensure, because over the years, because we've been doing this for some years now, and so we've had a lot of lessons learned to know, for you to get accurate and capture good data, you need to get the best hands. So what we've done over time is to be able to deploy technology to be able to recruit people, e-recruitment technology, recruit people, train them, and also do proper assessment for them also. engaging people from those communities.
Okay. Thank you, Ibrahim. Let's bring DG now. DG, I'm just wondering. I know that the effort to digitize the process is what is ongoing now. To of course ensure wider coverage. But in the past, we had multi-layer levels of registration. Like when you give birth at the hospitals, that's where the initial registration is done, even both at the state level and at the local government levels. And I'm trying to understand what happened to that process. And I mean, why are we not achieving results? Because if we have all these multi-level, platforms of registration, because I know when all my children were duly registered at birth at the various hospitals, and they were issued, birth certificates. So I'm just wondering.
Actually, that's a very fantastic question. What has happened over the years?
Yes.
You were using manual registration. It was totally manual.
Yeah.
Wherefore, papers are issued,
yeah,
and somebody goes back to the office and key in this data, and those data, you have them stored somewhere. That is that multi-layer. While we were talking, I looked at, I did a small mathematics that, look, if about 8 million births take place annually, and you have 4,000 registration centers, if you divide it, it will mean that on the average, one person will register about 2,000 births. And that is underfed. There's no way that will actually answer a modern day. PAPI, whatever I will call it, that is utilization of paper, is time taking. The data exists, but if you look at data entry errors, they exist because of such papers. Now somebody wants to key in those documents into an electronic format. You were born in 1962. He puts 60. He puts 50, 52. That has given you 10 years of age. What technology has done is that you enter it in the presence of that person after registration, and you give a view, an overview, to show the person, is it correctly entered? The name, are they correct? And every other information there. So, despite the fact that we have moved from paper, element of paper still exists. I wanted to add it there, that UNICEF is doing something very great along this line. In order to meet up with the massive request or the backlog, recruited about 18,000 persons extra to support MPC on a big drive to make sure that we get over this backlog using an electronic format. So that when you bring in the old data, the data set that came from data entry, you can align it with this present data that is coming in and build a robust data set. But another question I know you may ask, what about those dying?
No, I was even going to ask, because apart from attestation, which NNPC, I mean NPC. I'm sorry. You can understand why NNPC.
We need the N. We need the N in front.
You understand? Yeah. So apart from the attestation, the under 5, the coverage of under 5 is very critical. Yes, because I mean, talk about the rate at which women give birth in the country, and I'm wondering the connection between you and the hospitals, because that's the point of birth, and that's where the first initial registration ought to occur. So is there an interface?
Well,
yes.
I think I just run it through.
Yes.
Good question, great one. There is a strong collaboration between the National Population Commission and almost all the hospitals in Nigeria, especially public hospitals. We had a meeting with UNICEF and other teams, the Federal Ministry of Health, talking about how to continue to evolve a kind of interoperability that will allow this to be seamless. And I would say it for free. Probably there was a time MPC was guiding a territory for birth registration. With the new regime, that is gone. We are collaborating strongly with National Primary Healthcare Development Agency that even during immunization, they can assist in the registration in order to get a wider coverage. And we are linking up through the Bansford technology with their database, the DHIS, the Health Information System, so that we collaborate along that line. What is currently going on is just along that line.
Okay.
As a child is born, registration is done to some extent, and the MPC person attached to that catchment area approves that registration. Now, by so doing, the data is shared between the health institution as well as the National Population Commission. However, in the context of that comes NIMSI, which you actually mentioned. We will, in order to register that child fully, the identity of the parents or the informant must be seen. And that informant must have a name. So, it technically means that if the child or the parent do not have a name, we will try, because of that some ecosystem, collaboration within the ecosystem, we will report that case to NIMSI. NIMSI has given MPC some level of license to undertake a kind of registration, a NIM registration, which is sent to NIMSI. Once approval is gotten, the child is even going to get an automatic name, and it goes around. So it's not limited to the Federal Ministry of Health or the Ministry of Health only or hospitals. It is an ecosystem that goes beyond the hospitals up to NIMSI, National Immigration Services, and a host of them. It's a big ecosystem.
Even if the baby, because usually when a baby is born, you know, it doesn't have a name at that moment. You say baby A or baby B, yes, and all that. Yeah. But even at that stage, it is still possible to register that baby, isn't it? Yes. So how might that be done?
You do record updating when a child gets a name.
Okay.
But you know, let me tell you something. It's very interesting sometimes. We believe that a child doesn't have a name until about 7 days of birth. Some mothers, parents, technically have hidden names.
Of course you do, but it's not official. It's not usually made official until after 7 days. Yes. So after 7 days, it's either the name from the father or the mother. Exactly. So the baby has a genuine name.
Okay. Let me still stay with you, because you know earlier on you mentioned some of the challenges facing, you know, that you encounter, especially in the hard to reach, you know, communities. How do you now engage those community leaders? How do you collaborate with them in order for you to be able to reach? Because most of these people don't have access to hospital facilities. They just, you know, most of them have it. You know, these what do you call them now?
Traditional birth attendants.
Traditional birth attendants?
Yes, traditional birth attendants. So how do you reach out to people like that? Because you need to be able to engage the community leaders, traditional leaders, and all that.
Yeah, so that's another great one. They had to reach. So now, the National Population Commission, in the bid to do a census, had demarcated the whole of this country. About 99.6% of this country has been demarcated. In essence, almost all those areas reached. So what we call hard to reach is been identified to that extent. They are on a geospatial map, and we mentioned something critical, which has been the practice. Recruiting those who come from such areas to be part of an ad hoc system so that they carry out registration in those areas. If you look at the birth system, I was made to understand we did one evaluation of a job in Gombe. We now realize that for Muslims, for example, there's a Wazam system where a child takes a babin, and because people believe in it, those people who undertake the WASAM system were now recruited as agents.
Okay.
Those people are agents that when you want to barb the child, they will tell you that, okay, we agree that you are going to barb your child, but we also recommend that you go for immunization. We are thinking about leveraging on such process. Sometime this year, the minister, that's why I said there's a very strong ecosystem. The coordinating minister of Health and Social Welfare, Professor Lipate, was in Sokoto to talk to traditional rulers on the need for us to use leverage on their offices to establish registration centers, birth registration centers, as deep as that. So you realize that there's no community that doesn't have a traditional ruler in Nigeria to that extent. So we are already working out some measures, not to only go there intermittently, but to have what looks like a permanent residency for a lot of persons to undertake such registration.
Okay. Let me again go back to UNICEF. Mr. Sese, I know UNICEF has been, I mean, when you talk about children, you know, I've known UNICEF even before I started my primary school. You know, they will always ask you to, you know, to find UNICEF. So you're heavy here, and as far as birth registration is concerned, you're also collaborating with a lot of, you know, other private sectors. And recently, you had a collaboration with the Office of the First Lady, the Renewed Hope Initiative project. And I'm wondering, what kind of breakthrough are you expecting from, you know, these partners? What kind of problems do you hope to get solved, you know, with their partnership?
Thank you. We believe in the power of partnerships. And that is why we thought it's very, very important to engage prudently in ensuring that birth registration is on top of the agenda of His Excellency, the President. If you could recall, on the 8th of November 2023, he launched 3 key elements. One was digitalization for birth registration, which Banks for Technology is a key player, and then supporting the entire process. The second was on geospatial, and then the third was to really have a national CRVS coordination committee that brings everybody together. So the political commitment is there, but then how then can we really leverage on these particular platforms? And then we thought it fits that one key element is the Renewed Hope Initiative, of which Her Excellency the First Lady invested time, energy to make sure she brings all of these individuals together, and we should be able to really make the best use of that particular platform. We have traditional rulers, just like what has been mentioned. How do we really take this service to the doorsteps of individuals, the doorsteps of families? In traditional settings, wherein we have traditional birth attendants, how can we bring them in? Religious leaders, how can we really bring them in? The political elites, how can we bring them in? Women associations, just like during the launch which we had. We have all of these individuals coming in together and then say, look, let's really change course, and within this partnership to ensure that it really works. I give you a concrete example. National Orientation Agency is now a big vanguard with regards to the big push we really need to do, mobilizing communities and families to create the demand for birth registration, of which the supply component really has to come from NPC, the technology itself. But on our end is to really leverage on all of these partners to make sure every child's birth is registered. The Constitution, when you look at the Compulsory Birth and Death Registration Act, it gives families a space of 60 days, which is free for the registrations to occur. So birth registration is free in Nigeria. And the issuance of the certificate is also free. So, but how do we make sure it works? That is the issue. So the partnerships here are quite critical and important. So we will continue to work with the Office of the First Lady. working with the Governors Spouses Forum throughout the Federation, women associations, and of course, we're also looking at the local government authorities. When you look at the LGS, the ALGONs, all of these individuals are very, very critical as part of this enterprise.
Okay.
So we will put every effort to make sure women associations, wherein you look in terms of the gender dimension with regards to they are the ones that are given birth. Why not you bring them as part of this particular endeavor? So they are all part of the mix with regards to what we want to do. But obviously, there is a great momentum that we've already started, and we are building upon this so that by the end of the year, we are looking somewhere around 9.5 to 10 million children under 5. And I just want to make this point also. The issue of UNICEF's involvement, working alongside with NPC, as well as the use of technology in terms of digitalization, at the moment is for us to mop up children that are under 5. But by 2026, the focus will be children that are born today and newborns, because that is what you talk about birth registration. Okay. Now we are really moving way beyond the target with regards to bringing in under 5, so that they have a chance for every child that is under 5, so that those births are really registered. So we will continue on, as far as that piece is concerned, to see that all relevant stakeholders, in terms of mobilizing communities, building the partnerships within communities at ward level, ward development committees, local governments, to ensure that we improve coverage.
Okay, okay. Well noted your efforts there, Sise. But I also want to find out, because one of the major challenges of maybe government or NPC is the issue of funding. And I want to find out if UNICEF actually is helping to fund or providing resources for mobilization strategies, for rural communities or to assist government.
Thank you. That is a very important question. And this we are also really putting this forward for public financing with regards to civil registration, including birth registration for NPC. There is a gap when you really look in terms of budgetary allocation, budgetary utilization concerning birth registration in Nigeria. Largely, we have been providing the necessary technical and financial resources so that we'll be able to really move that trajectory forward.
Okay.
And of course, there will become a time wherein things will start to dwindle. But one key ask is when budgets are being prepared, the inclusion and the adequate allocation of resources for birth registration, including civil registration, is very, very critical for Nigeria. And that is a shortcoming, which we have been trying to really augment. So the sustainability of it really lies on this. Coming specifically to your question with regards to resources we're putting in with regards to social mobilization, creating the demand for birth registration. As I've mentioned, there is a collaboration between NPC, National Orientation Agency, the Ministry of Health and Social Welfare, local communities, coming together to really bring the messages home that birth registration is important for your child, creating that awareness, mobilizing the household, more especially mothers and fathers say, look, we really want to really change the trajectory. As the reasons I've mentioned with regards to the importance of birth registration, register your child's birth. If you want to access services, register your child's birth.
Okay.
You want to really be a Nigerian in terms of your legal identity, as Abraham mentioned, in terms of your proof as a Nigerian, register your child's birth. So that mobilization is very, very critical.
Okay.
And we will continue to really foster those efforts. And of course, our responsibility is to really contribute to the efforts of government through NPC and other relevant stakeholders.
Okay, thank you very much. Let me bring in Ibrahim Sulaiman now. I want to ask you, how can we ensure that birth registration I mean, using your technology, is integrated into existing health care system in this country.
Fantastic. I was even going to piggyback on that when Clara was asking that from the DG. Okay, so what we've been able to do today is to ensure that the technology that we've built is accessible even at the hospital level, because we understand that that is where birth starts from. So today, one of the key collaborations that we have today is that of with the Ministry of Health and also the National Primary Health Development Agency, and that is key because we recognize how important they are to this particular whole process. And that's why when the DG was saying that now this is no more an NPC domain, it is an ecosystem thing, which would have to involve all of these agencies. So today, with the technology, hospitals have also been involved. Medical centers, not just hospitals, like Chief will always say, medical facilities have also been involved in this, whereby they are also able to take part in that particular process of registering a birth when they encounter such. So today, hospitals also are being trained, other medical facilities are being trained by the NPC staffs to be able to ensure that they are also able to use this particular technology. So the technology is now available to all. Now, part of the things that we're also doing is also integrating directly also with the Ministry of Health's DHIS too, because that is what is readily available and what they use. So what that means is as soon as the medical facilities that have this DHIS too, as soon as they register a birth within their domain, automatically it feeds into this database. Whenever NPC also registers a birth on their side, it feeds into this database also. That way we are building this database that is very key to the country for decision making. Very key, because now when you say, when we say in Nigeria, we are 200 and something million people.
How are we sure?
How are we sure? We don't really know.
And you need to provide facilities for over 200 million people.
Exactly. So how do you plan for these people? How do you actually even know how many of these people are, so you're able to plan services for them? Like I mentioned earlier, foundational identity is key because that is how individuals, let me not say children, individuals access government services. Government services are key for the development of every individual. So, and how do you identify these people and be able to plan for them as they grow into the society? To say, okay, so how many schools do we build? How many jobs need to be created or enabled by the government? It is based on this data, this foundational data, that you're able to know that. And you're able to even roll out plans, policies to ensure that, okay, births are either encouraged and otherwise. So these are things that, so that's why when, for our part, we're not just technology providers, we also understand, we try to understand the ecosystem also to be able to understand policy directions, government directions, to be able to ensure that our technology meets all of these requirements.
Okay, thank you very much, Sulaiman, for that. Let me bring in again the DG MPC now. From what he said, there are a lot of social and economic benefits of birth registration. Let's look at it, because a lot of people do not actually understand that there are economic and social benefits. All just need is government is forcing them to go and register their child or their children and all that. So what are these economic and social benefits, and how can people, I mean, Nigerians, begin to tap into these benefits?
Yeah, so that's another question, though very similar to what has been mentioned.
Yes.
Social benefits, legal identity, like Dr. Sise said. If you are not registered, you are not a complete Nigerian. Let me put it that way. It looks a difficult phrase to make, but that legal identity, since it's a right, should be taken up. It is the right of the child to be registered. So parents are admonished at this point in time to know that if you are not if a child of yours is not registered, there's problem somewhere. I was in a workshop in South Africa, and some countries were talking about identity theft. The tendency for identity theft is reduced when that child is registered. We talked about growth, planning. Well, I started by talking about registration going beyond just registering the child. Sometimes we talk about movement to determine whether a population still remains the same. We have what looks like the dynamics for population change. In order to compute them, one critical thing is registration of births, because fertility in migration determines the population that comes in onto a community, a locality, and the rest of them, while
Okay.
yeah.
Okay, let me just pause you a bit. So we're just getting a feeler from China, where the president is actually attending a summit, the 2024 summit of the Forum on China Africa Cooperation FOCA, opened in the early hours of today in Beijing, and President Bola Tinubu addressed the summit as the chairman of the ECOWAS Authority of Heads of States and Governments. Let's take a listen to him.
And display of diversity in excellence in learning and collaboration. Thank you very much. It is with a great joy and pleasure that I stand before you today, celebrating the remarkable partnership between Africa and China, a bond that has not only endured, but has grown stronger since its inception in the early 50s. This relationship has transcended continents, challenges, and become a true testament to the power of mutual respect and cooperation. One began as a China support for African nations' independence, has evolved into a rich, multifaceted partnership spanning trade, investment, and diplomacy. Over years of our ties, we have been solidified. We share through high-level engagement, strategic agreement, and a shared vision of growth. Today, we gather to reflect on the progress we've made and chart the course for even greater achievements. At this stage, I must say congratulations to the earlier speakers, particularly our co-chair, my brother and friend, the President of Senegal, Bassirou Faye, for navigating what appeared to be complex in a very simple manner and got us to this position. Thank you very much for your contribution. As it throughout our journey, there have been defining moments that have shaped this partnership. China has consistently demonstrated its commitment to Africa, not only through financial and developmental support, but also through cultural exchanges that bring our people closer and closer together. The establishment of the Institute and Chinese cultural centers across Africa exemplifies the depth of our cultural fusion and shared learning. A landmark of our relationship came in year 2000 with the establishment of the FOCA. This platform has been pivotal in strengthening our economic ties and reaffirming our commitment to mutual progress. Despite the global challenges we face, whether the economic or geographical, our partnership has stood firm, resolute, and offering a powerful example of what can be achieved through respect for sovereignty and non-interference. One of the highest highlights of this collaboration has been the flourishing economic partnership. Trade between Africa and China has grown exponentially, reaching an estimated $280 billion US. These impressive figures speak volumes about the strength of our economic relationship and expanding integration of our market. I say, China's Belt and Road Initiative, aligned with the Africans' own infrastructure goals under African Continental Free Trade Agreement. This offers even a greater promise. The success of FOCAC and our broader partnership emphasizes the importance, truth, that global progress is not a zero-sum game. By working together and joining hands and looking for that win-win solution, we create opportunities for sustainable development and shared prosperity. Our joint efforts reinforce the vision for a multipolar world where diverse perspectives are embraced and cooperation is key to solving global challenges. At the heart of China-African relations is a foundation built on trust, mutual respect, and the pursuit of common goals. As we look to the future, it is crucial that we maintain the momentum, peaceful dialogue, transparent business practices, diplomatic conflict resolution remain at the forefront of our efforts. These values will ensure that the bond between Africa and China continue to deepen and benefit both regions for the generations yet to come. The partnership is not only about shared history, it is driven by a bold collective vision for the future. Together, we join hands by pooling our strength and resources. We can unlock unprecedented level of growth and development for our nations. Before I close, I would like to extend once again our heartfelt appreciation to President Jinping and government of China for their steadfast commitment to the enduring partnership, the vision, the dedication that have helped shape the relationship into one of the most significant alliances of our time. History will judge us much, much better. As we move forward, let us continue to build our shared success, working hand in hand to achieve even greater heights in the years ahead. Africa, our motherland, is in need of that collaboration and the progress. Prosperity awaits today, tomorrow, and future generations that can key in today's vision. The challenge is ours. Thank you very much.
All right, welcome back. And of course, you just heard Nigeria's president speaking at the 2024 summit of the China-Africa Cooperation FOCA. And of course, the last statement the president made there was calling on generations to key into this cooperation. And of course, he is saying that Africa is in dire need of this cooperation, and it is, of course, very critical for everyone to key into it. He also talked about the fact that China has been a very, critical partner in times of need, and he mentioned in different areas that, China has been of tremendous help to Africa, especially financial and cultural exchanges. And the president also talked about collaboration. But one important thing the president said is the fact that this cooperation is built on a foundation of trust and prosperity. And of course, he said collaboration built on trust, common respect, and common goals. Once again, it's a collaboration that is built on common trust, common respect, and common goals. You heard it from Nigeria's president at the 2024 FOCA meeting. Let's take a short break.
The federal government of Nigeria warns vandals of national assets, electricity transmission towers, cables, and other facilities to desist from this act of sabotage. Vandalism is a serious crime punishable under the law. Vandalizing electrical equipment will affect millions of Nigerians, including your loved ones. Remember that national assets belong to all of us, hence the need to protect them. Report all cases of suspicious movement around electrical facilities to security agencies. When you see something, say something. This message is from the Federal Ministry of Information and National Orientation in collaboration with the National Counter-Terrorism Center, NCTC, Office of the National Security Advisor.
Imagine a world where your potential isn't limited by your bank account, where your financial dreams can become reality. That world is here with the Nigerian Consumer Credit Corporation Scheme, Credico. Credico is one of President Tinubu's initiatives designed to put the power of consumer credit in the hands of working Nigerians. Here to help you achieve your goals, whether it's providing for your family or expanding your home or business. Visit www.credico.ng today for details. This is the renewed hope.
Meet lovebirds Jayola and Adama Davies. Their dream of living together as man and wife has finally been fulfilled.
The latest couple in town. Mr. and Mrs. Jaye Davis!
But an invasion by their troublesome families was not a scenario they bargained for. Her mother moves in. His mother shows up with his little niece. Then her younger sister joins the scramble.
You want to stay?
Married life suddenly becomes very complicated even before it started. Follow their story on this channel as they confront every challenge as it comes. Family forever, the story of our lives.
The counsel of our fathers.
I will urge and advise our younger generation to use talent and brain to sort out problems. not arms.
Nigerian youths, let's build our nation together.
We must all join hands to work hard so that we build a country for our grandchildren.
My hope is that we develop as a nation where every citizen is given his due right, there is transparency, honesty, and integrity.
Put the interests of this country first and foremost. Interest of Nigeria is being one nation, one people.
The need, if I mean, to put things right, things that have gone wrong before, to try and put right. For this, for the love of country.
The race to qualify for the biggest football competition in Africa is on. The 2025 Africa Cup of Nations. 48 teams in 12 groups, with only the top 2 teams in each group qualifying for the African Cup of Nations in 2025 in Morocco. Don't miss the action, suspense and unrivaled coverage on AfroSport TV and its affiliates partners across Nigeria, starting from September 2024 to November 2024. AfroSport, your freedom of sport.
Thanks for staying with us. You're still on to Good Morning Nigeria on the network service of the NTA. Before we took the president address at the 2024 summit of the Forum of China-Africa Cooperation, we're discussing on upscaling registration, birth registration in Nigeria. And we still have our guest here. And before we went to the president's address, the DG NPC was speaking on the economic and social, benefits of this birth registration. Can you just conclude your thoughts before we move on?
Well, thank you. Let me actually add to what I earlier said. The identity issue via registration. You are tied to a locality of birth via your registration. With the nation to the state by your registration. I know that some people go to some countries to give birth to their kids and register them there in order to have an identity in the context of that country. That is how good that is. After that, what happens? Access to international passport. You participate in educational exercises in that country, and a host of other benefits. So it goes on and on. That
sorry, I just want to interject. Does that affect, because just like what you just said now, I was going to ask, a lot of people travel out of this country to maybe probably UK or US or other countries to have to give their birth to their children, and they bring them into this country. What are the implications?
So there's no serious implication.
Okay.
There's a global networking tendency alone that you register a child once.
Okay.
What happens next is notification of birth. That is what they can actually come in here to do.
Okay.
That is it's no longer like you are giving a child a new certificate. You are not saying no. The child has gotten one certificate and it is forever, no matter the country. Unless it is done outside what is constitutionally right, all other things you are getting will not be a birth certificate. Rather, it could be what looks like a birth notification or attestation. That's what you just get. Okay. It's not an equivalent of a birth certificate. Okay. So we encourage them, people abroad, those in diaspora, we spoke with them recently, that they can come and notify us of the registration they had in those other countries. I think that's a very simple one too. But that tells you also the importance of that registration. That in as much as they were born outside this country, they have something, they have a stake here. In order for you to completely have a stake and be identified along that line, you need to have that notification done and completed in Nigeria.
All right,
So, well,
yes, okay, sorry. We wanted to...
Yeah, I wanted to add one aspect that is remote now. I know Dr. Sise mentioned it, but let me just affirm to it again that the National Health Insurance Scheme is leveraging on all this registration for you to access health services nationwide. And it is something that beholds every Nigerian to be registered, really.
All right, let's look at the attestation part, because if we're talking about birth registration, we're looking at children, you know, and specifically, you know, under 5 and all that. But attestation, because you brought in attestation, which means, you know, those people, I don't want to include myself, you know, who at birth, probably the adults who probably don't have, you know, authentic registration. Is that what it is? Is that what it is? So in this case, Banksforth will have, you know, a key role to play, because it will require a lot of, you know, digital applications and all that. So can you just give us an insight into, you know, who is eligible to come for an yes.
Thank you very much. So an attestation is for individuals who are 18 and above. So anybody who is under 18 cannot get an attestation. You get a birth certificate. It could be a delayed birth certificate, but it is still a birth certificate. So from 18 and above, you get an attestation. Now, why attestation is very critical is because even for some of us who were issued some kind of paper, and I call it paper in quotes, we found out that a lot of these papers were from the hospitals, right? So hospitals would issue, so you see your birth certificate, you read Surulere, something, hospital. Yes. Meanwhile, there are supposed to be notifications. So hospitals are part of the ecosystem, and they should naturally notify NPC to say those things they give should be notifications that those people take to an NPC registrar, who then issues an authentic birth certificate. But maybe because of information advocacy and all of that, a lot of people just go on with those hospital birth notification documents as their birth certificates. Then later in life, they go to a court, get an affidavit. So, but with this, what we've done so far is to now bring back what it should be, which is to say that for those who have those kind of documentations, now
affidavit. So if you have an affidavit, as a birth certificate, listen carefully.
Exactly. Yes. So just go online, go to the National Population Commission's website, and click on the services menu. You would see you will see a list of services that NPC offers, and one of them is the attestation for 18 years and above. And it's pretty easy, very easy to use. So just click on it. It will ask you for your information, your NIN. For those who don't have NIN, there's also another route for those people. For those who have NIN, there's a route for them, and you get an authentic attestation certificate. And now what this does with technology, what it does now is that you are now able to verify these things easily.
Okay.
So with that,
so that becomes genuine.
It becomes genuine. It becomes verifiable. So even when you lose that physical paper, the birth certificate number, for everywhere you need to use them, you just give them that birth certificate number and they punch it in. They can contact NPC's database and verify that, oh, this is so and so person.
If you don't have any of those documents, like the affidavit, if you don't have it, can you also approach, you know, fill in the form? Are you also eligible?
So because these are compulsory documentations that you need to have before you get an attestation.
Yes.
And I think off-air when we're discussing, the DG had mentioned so that the commission is covered also legally. Also, it is important that you must have an affidavit before you're able to get your attestation.
Because I was thinking if there was You know, if there was the possibility of eliminating, you know, people going for affidavit, because it has become an easy route.
So I'll tell you something that just happened by Providence recently. So leveraging on partnerships, just like the chief mentioned, we've started having these conversations with another concessionaire to the government who's responsible for all the federal magistrates, the federal high courts in Nigeria. And they've also digitized all of these their processes. So which means that it doesn't even take you don't have to even exit the National Population web portal. So if you don't have an affidavit to today, we've brought that into that particular service also, which makes you to say, okay, I don't have an affidavit, just click on this, get your affidavit.
Online.
Online.
All right. I just want to ask before I come to Sese, this issue of lack of sensitization, like he mentioned, because you have told us the processes now.
Yes.
How are you sensitizing the populace on this? Because a lot of people don't know. And after this discussion now, and it ends here,
Yes.
what are you doing to further, inform and encourage the people to go through all these processes? One. Then secondly, the issue of hackers.
Yes.
How protective are all these information when they are put on your system? Because we hear a lot of things now, people hack into system, government system, bank system, and they take this information for the dubious, purposes. So how protective?
How protected is it? So let me start with that, because that falls into our domain.
Yes.
So there's a lot of security measures that we've put in place.
Yeah.
Like I mentioned earlier, because of digitization, certificates now become, or records now become verifiable. And they now become also attractive to people, dubious people, because now they now want to be able to harvest these records. Now what we've done is to put in a lot of security measures in place. I might not be at liberty to be able to mention each one of them. Security by obscurity is what we call it. So, but these security measures have been put in place. Some of the things that I can't mention here are we've been able to ensure that people outside will not just say, oh, let me just begin to issue birth certificates arbitrarily. So that's why I keep hammering on the fact that these things are not verifiable. So which means that when you get your birth certificate, birth certificates, death certificates, attestation certificates, there's a QR code on that certificate that when you use the scan it contacts the MPC database also to say, is this certificate genuine? Just like what you have with NAFDAC, where NAFDAC says, scan this QR code. So the same technology is also on the
mind you, that of NAFDAC is being faked now. So you have to be careful.
Yes, it is. So
yeah.
Again, so we've learned a lot from that to be able to say, so you can now verify this on the fly. But for at the touch points where you are going to use these particular things, we are also doing the legwork in collaboration to say you must integrate directly to the MPC system, so that when these people bring in these documents, you are able to verify by yourself. So
what's the activity level like so far?
When you said the activity, you mean
yes,
the volume?
Online, yes. It gives us an idea, of the response, whether the sensitization and all the awareness and all the partnerships, whether it's actually registering to the right people.
So awareness can be better. We've seen a lot of activities, especially when we launched last year. At the beginning of this year also, we've seen a lot of activities. Of course, even with the recent Renewed Hope Initiative platform also, we saw some increased spikes in the volume. What we try to do from our side is also to use digital media to also spread out this information to say, these are the benefits of getting these certificates, getting this foundational certificate or these documents. And we've been able to see some of these spikes. which is one of the reasons why we are here also, to be able to say, oh, leverage this particular platform to be able to reach out to more people. What is key, what is also instructive is also to see that for every time we have these category large launchings, you see that we endeavor to always bring in these traditional rulers, bring in these people who have a touch point and an engagement with.
But even beyond that, because I mean, traditional rulers and all the, local, the leadership at the local and the grassroots level have always been involved. And I'm wondering, is there any paradigm shift in terms of awareness creation and involvement of UNICEF now?
I think I mentioned this earlier. We are really moving away when you really look at Twitter, WhatsApp, because the majority of areas where registration is not happening is in remote and rural areas.
Hard to reach areas.
So, how do you really bring the message home? How do you engage the town criers? How do you make sure you have social mobilizers that really reaches the household? That's the approach. Because we also have other forms of media, social platforms, all of those are working. But to really have a penetration to the household is to really bring the message home.
Okay.
And one way we are now doing it through NOA and then working with local communities. And as I've mentioned to you, with regards to the inclusive partnerships in terms of enlarging and expanding and making sure that really works, now you have the local government authorities.
What about the messaging content? Because that matters.
Oh,
because
very much. Because it really has to be one, simple.
Yes.
Yeah. One key element, birth registration is free, and these are the benefits that you are getting. Okay. You'll be able to really access it in specific locations within those communities that have been identified, and we make sure those services are provided. Because here, it is basically creating that demand for birth registration, and at the same time, the supply components have to be in, and people are well aware with regards to what they really want out of that particular endeavor, and ensuring that it doesn't cost anything. But all what you need, just take your child and register.
You know why? Sorry, please.
Let me just ask this question. Somebody just sent me this question. He said, how is UNICEF, let me just read it, supporting the development of policies and legislation, to protect the right of birth registration?
That's a good one. Currently, we are working on supporting the efforts of NPC and other stakeholders within the civil registration ecosystem. So look at the Compulsory Births and Deaths Act. Now, if you look at that particular act, the provisions contained therein, it doesn't contain elements having to do with data protection. It doesn't contain elements having to do with digital signatories. And even with regards to digitalization of the process itself.
It needs review.
It needs review.
Yeah.
So what we are now doing, we've brought in House of Rep as well as Senate into one meeting to really make sure that Committee on Population will be able to really move that agenda. As I'm talking to you, there is a draft bill before them, and it should really be going on to the first reading in September. Okay. So that is critical. Point number 2. Once that bill is becomes an act, after the assent by His Excellency, obviously there will be regulations, how that act really has to be implemented. Point 3, we are now working with NPC, bringing in all civil registration and vital statistics, MDAs, ministries, departments, and agencies, and other relevant stakeholders. The 15 interministerial committee that has been set up to form the National CRVS Committee to develop a national strategy and a costed plan between 2024 to 2030, which is basically the end of the SDGs. That work is ongoing. So that is very, very critical to see how all of this works out. The 5th point, which of course is very important when you really look in terms of bringing all of these synergies, but in a very practical sense, how can we really make sure services are provided, but ensuring that is an effective collaboration and partnership between all of these particular partners. Notably, Ministry of Health, local government, to see that all of it works. So, was it 2 days ago?
Yeah, 2 days ago.
We had a meeting with the Ministry of Health and Social Welfare, and we have now, we came to the conclusion that standard operating procedures, protocols, how all of these entities should be able to work together, the division of labor between them, harnessing resources, and leveraging on the good work of others. Because what we found out, if a child is being immunized, the birth is registered, and you issue the certificate, what happened? Even the rates of immunization are up, but then at the same time, the child's birth is also being registered.
Just before Demola signs off, I just have one, very not, a last question. Actually, I don't know either whether UNICEF or NPC, but it's again within the context of messaging. We know that in some cultures, it's considered a taboo when you have your children. You start registering them, you start counting them. They feel it's counting them, and it's not. So,
it's traditional belief.
Yes, that's a traditional belief. So, in your message, content, I'm wondering how you're going to fashion this to be able to convince, and get the buy-in of these, people who you don't want to leave behind.
Okay, well, so sometimes you talk about hard to reach, but there's another group of persons called hard to count. So that's the group you're talking about, based on their beliefs. Well, it's still the same method or procedure of engaging the traditional persons to do traditional things. I know I went to one Ruga Fulani in Jigawa State, and we tried to enumerate them, and they told me their names, age, and the rest of them. And as we were about to leave, they told me that all that was said was just fake.
Goodness.
Yeah, that they wanted to know my intention or our intention before coming out. And there was a lesson learned. Tell them, convince them that you are not against their culture. Rather, you are trying to mitigate on, or you utilize what is available in order to help alleviate their culture by using them, making them prominent in the whole process. And that exactly was what happened finally. And that we've leveraged to actually get to them. They had to count, not difficult to reach when you convince a member of that team, and that solves it. Yeah, that solves it usually. Use their locals, use their belief system, their norms to get to them. And like Chief said, NOA does that exactly because we've been collaborating with them.
Yeah, use their language, because it is said that if you speak my language, I'm more likely to identify with you and listen to you, because I hear you speak my language, you believe and trust me. Thank you very much. We're going to draw the curtain now. I just want to appreciate the Director General National Population Commission, NPC, Dr. Tolson Osifo Ojogo. Thank you so much for your contribution this morning.
It's a pleasure, sir.
And also, I want to thank Ibrahim Sese, he's the UNICEF Chief of Child Protection. Thank you.
A pleasure.
All right. Also, we want to thank Ibrahim Sulaiman, Chief Operations Officer, Bankford Technologies Limited. Thank you for coming on Good Morning Nigeria.
Thank you for that.
Well, that's our package on Good Morning Nigeria this morning. Thanks for watching.
Is time still dynamic? I mean, is it static?
It is static because 9 o'clock now will be 9 o'clock tomorrow. So time doesn't change. We are the one that are changing. So your time is ticking. Bye for now. See you tomorrow.
We'll see you tomorrow. I am Claire Adelabu Abdul Razak. Bye-bye.